Welcome back to the Punch video time, and in this video I am going to be showing you how you can add values from your Python projects into your SQL database. So let's get started. So for this video I am going to be using the TK Inter project I made from the last video. So if you want to follow this, please check this out because I'm just going to be continuing that. So we didn't do much in the TK Inter video. All we did was make a label, an entry, and then after that we made a submit button. So you can just see the code. So let me just explain the code so anyone who hasn't watched the video can continue from here. So I'm not going to be doing much changes. Everything I'm going to be doing is going to be related to this, but all the code that I am going to be adding to this can be used in any other project. So what I actually mean by this is like you can just follow this video and every single line of code that I am going to be writing in this video, you can use it for your own projects without having any error. So let's get started. So the first thing we want to do is import MySQL connector. So after that we can go down and we can start typing the code. So first we are going to want to connect to the SQL database. So let's type in db is equal to mysql connector.connect, and then after that we're going to be having the host, and host will be equal to your host. So not literally your host, it will be equal to the host that you are using, which in my case, let me just type it out, it will be 127 and something. So let me just type in your host. Okay, next would be user. So user is obviously going to be your user. So my one is root. And then the next is password. So the password would be equal to your password. So obviously the password be equal to your password. And then after that, obviously this is not my password. I just wrote password. Let me just write here. Your password, your host, and that. And then the last thing that I want to be using would be, wait a second. And the last thing would be our database. So let's type in database is equal to test. Okay. So now after writing these lines of code, we have successfully connected to your database. So obviously you have to put in your host, your username, your username, your password, and your database here. This is just for testing purposes, so yes. Okay, now let's continue. So now we're going to be putting cursor is equal to db.cursor. Now this is going to be doing like whatever we do, whatever we say to this cursor now is going to type the query inside my SQL database, and then it will execute it. So whatever we're doing, it's now like when we're typing the code, we are controlling MySQL database now after we put in this. So this is now our cursor. So that means that now we are now controlling our MySQL database. So now I'm going to need a query. Now the query would be our our statement or our order to the cursor, like what we want to do. That would be our order to the cursor. That would be our query. So our query is all caps insert into then after that your database. Wait a second. Your username. Okay. So insert into the database that you're using, and what we want to insert would be name and age with values there we go. So what we're saying is that we're going to insert into the database. So what we're going to be inserting would be the value of this text box or entry and the value of this drop down. So what we are just doing is that you can see here name is equal to name entry dot get. That means the value of this variable or this entry, we are putting it here, and then the age would be the value of this drop down after we have selected and press the submit button. So after submit button, this will pop up. Now you can put in any single variable or any single value or name you want, but for me, I'm going to be putting in name and age. Now the values is equal to our name and our age. There you go. And the last thing we need is cursor dot execute our query. That means our order and our values. So then after that, we want to do our db.commit. And the last thing we want to do would be to close the current connection. So after this, we do db.close. That means we are now closing our connection. So this is how to add values into your database from your Python project into your MySQL database. So it's a very simple process that you can do. You can so what to do for this video, you are going to just need to copy this line of code with this import. So obviously, if you want to put it in a MySQL database, you need to have MySQL installed. You have to have your host, a user name, a password, and a database already in, which you will all do in your setup. Then this over here is just for your connection and putting it in your database. So I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe. Until next time, the Pond's video time is out.